William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is David Lozano, and I'm the Executive Artistic Director of Cara Mia Theater Company. And we're very proud to be presenting this community conversation as part of our community action programs. Community action came about for Cara Mia Theater because we had been producing plays for so long, and we would have discussions, and then we realized it was time to elevate the discussions and look for ways for each of us to be able to walk away from these discussions with opportunities to take action to improve our own lives and uplift the lives of the people in our communities. So that's why we have programs called Community Action, and this is one of them. And so we're very proud to have our special guests that are here visiting today, and all of our familia here who come to see Cara Mia events and come to these discussions. And I want to recognize Ernest McMillan, the curator for Community Action, who has built this program and is so adept at creating all of these programs. I do want to invite everyone to come see the performance tonight at Les Ultima. It is technically sold out, but we've never had a 100% sellout. We've sold out technically, but there's usually tickets left because someone doesn't show up. So if someone does want to attend the performance, I would suggest that as soon as you can, sign in on the standby or wait list at the box office. And I think you will most likely get in, but we're sold out at this moment. And if you can't make it tonight, we have one more show tomorrow at 2:30 in the afternoon. And I would get your tickets for that if you can, because we may sell that one out as well. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Ernest McMillan, who will introduce our guests. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you, David. I appreciate the kind words, and I'm very excited to be in your midst tonight. I'm looking at the faces here, and I'm excited about the prospects for tonight. I'm wondering how many are planning to stay around for the plate later on. Anybody sticking around for the plate? All right, thank you. All right. This is our third play in the 2018-2019 season. It's been a whirlwind. Beautiful stories being told and a great amount of sharing by community people throughout that. First one was Wit, adapted in German. How many had a chance to visit with us for that play? All right, cool. All right. We also had a conversation following that, and the conversation was powerful in the sense because we had the artist, the writer, and the performer as well sitting down with us and sharing his insights on self-determination and the age of zero tolerance. So that was powerful. Alex Alfaro, is the one who wrote the play and performed excellently. He took a national tour. Next play of the season was Tina's Journey. And anybody here had a chance to see that one? Beautiful, beautiful. So we had a beautiful time witnessing that play as well as having a conversation about that as well. And the conversation then was on the human story of crossing over, the trauma, the resilience, and the hope of people who cross over. And so that was a powerful example of, we had about 6 people telling their stories, each coming from other parts of the world, coming to the United States and what they faced here. So we learned a lot and we really built some connections with people that understand the plight of many going through them today. And so today, we're looking at the healing powers of family traditions and cultural practices. And so tonight we'll be zooming in on that whole aspect of the power of cultural relevant practices and how we can sustain that. What does it mean? Where do we go with that? How can we connect to that ourselves? So I'm looking forward to a powerful discussion that will emanate from us sharing together. So I may ask 2 or 3 questions, but we're expecting you to basically join us in sharing your thoughts, your person, your ideas, and what you've got out of it. But before we begin that, though, I want to say that we want to start by shuffling some molecules around and having you think about where you are and reflecting. And we want to start that with a kind of an invocation. Jesse, We're going to start there with an invocation of sorts. And this invocation is going to be culturally related. So we hope we'll be able to relax, breathe, and take in this powerful demonstration of culture. And we want you to stick around. For after we have a discussion, we'll have some food for you to break bread with us together, mingle, get to meet your other neighbors, and then stick around for the show. So without any further ado, I'm going to move myself out of the way.
The Maya saw no difference between the physical and spiritual graves. They believed everything, even time, possessed supernatural powers. Their world existed in 3 layers, a world tree representing the Milky Way. Like the tall and majestic flowering tree, the sacred, the highest layer of the pyramid resided. The middle world, or earth, was conscious, and its deep roots were under the world of death and the night as she vanished.
one of them to, first of all, just tell us about their journey. What brings them here today? And I'd like to start with Martha, if you don't mind.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for being here. My name is Marta, and I'm from Mexico. I'm from Jalapa, Veracruz, which is Jalapa is the capital city of Veracruz in Mexico, and I lived there for most of my childhood. When I think about my life journey, I think of it as always moving, always constantly moving to a different city, a different country eventually. So lots of changes, for sure. When I was living in my childhood in Jalapa, I was always very close to my family, my mom, my dad, my brother. But there was someone that was very special, and that was my grandmother, my mom's mother. And at the time she lived in Córdoba, Veracruz, which was about 2 hours from where I was living in Jalapa. So anyway, long story short, we moved to several different states in Mexico, and eventually we moved all to Córdoba with my grandmother. And so that was the beginning of things for me. I shared a room with her, and one of the things, and I think that's what I'm here, is that she was a curandera in her own way. At the time, I didn't know that she was a curandera, as I come from a very Catholic religious family, so all that thing was always kept behind the door. But she always found ways to heal with herbs, she had her rituals, so I learned a lot from her. And thinking more into depth about my life journey, I'm in constant search of myself. To me, it was really beautiful to see these dance, because I find myself that I've been here in the States for 10 years, and here, being up here and missing home so much had made me be in search for my roots and going back to ask these questions. So, wait a second, I want to know more about my grandmother now. What was she doing? I mean, I participated in all the things that she taught me in terms of healing and with herbs and different rituals, but at the time I didn't have it present that, she was a healer. It was until I was here that my own journey demanded for healing services, because I experienced a lot of pain being here, trying to define who I am in this new setting. So I found that I keep constantly going back to my roots and back to my past.
Hello, my name is Yosa Alanis. Yosa is short for Yanasa Ehia, which is my Etowah true name. I'm one of these children that was taken off the reservation and placed with distant family and grew up in Texas. And so I've been here a lot through my growing up years. Right now I live in Mexico, but it's a calling that takes me over there. But my beginning I didn't know about until I was in Dallas, Texas, and at a powwow. And then that's when I met my grandmothers from Ponca territory. And come to find out, I was born in White Eagle, Oklahoma, and I was shortly transported out of there. My mother died giving me birth, and she had me out in the bush because in those days midwives were killed and women were forced into the Bureau of Indian Affairs clinics. And because in 1951, I believe is the last time that they did the selection process, this was a way to keep the population control in the different reservations. And so in 1951 was the year that Ponca territory was selected, and I was one of these babies that was supposed to die. All the female children were annihilated. The women were injected with drugs to where the baby would be stillborn inside or die shortly afterwards. So that's one of the reasons why my mother snuck to the wilderness and had me there. But there was complications and she died. Later, the only midwife that was left alive and that kept hid, she and a relative of my mother transported me to distant family in Texas, and the family that I grew up with traveled all over the place. But one thing I learned about the family since I can remember, since I was very little, I always had the grandmothers and I always had the old aunts, and they were all healers. They were medicine people. And so since the time I could walk, they started teaching me about herbs, about different ways of healing people through energy, through herbs, through the earth, the dirt that we call dirt. Is sacred dirt. And that was also used in healing processes. Utilizing animals, how to learn not only to grow, but also how to utilize every part of the animal when it was used for not only medicine, but it was also used for food. And so my growing up years was spent in learning about all these different ways. And people say, well, what is your technique? What is it that you do? There is no name for it. I mean, many people have many names for it. And sometimes they'll blurt out a name and I'll just say, oh, okay, that sounds good. Because I myself don't categorize or name things, including myself. A lot of times I tell people, well, I'm just a messenger. I just come because I don't do things alone. The energy that is utilized for working on whomever comes my way is given to me by the higher source, which is by many names, many cultures, and also the grandmothers always within me, their energy and their hands. Just because they left the body doesn't mean that they're not still around when they need to be. So that's very important. So a lot of the things I do depends on the person itself. Sometimes the body, if the person is so sick, and sometimes they tell me, well, I've been to the doctors and they don't know what's wrong with me. Can you please let me know if you can find something and if you can help me? So it's a matter of taking that person and looking at it, and the body itself will talk to me, will open itself. It's like watching a video where that person's body will split open and let me see where it is hurt and what needs to be done. Whether it's working with the energy and balancing that energy, because when the mind is off, the body is off, the spirit is off. And people will ask me, well, what religion are you? Spirituality is not a religion. It is a way of life. It is being attuned to earth and to universe. It is being in partner with all life forms and knowing that all peoples, all races of people are relatives, because we're all intermarried. At one time, before the continent split, all races of people were first people. We knew each other's languages, not only of the humankind, the two-legged animal, but of the four-legged animal, of the plant and of the trees. We knew all language because we worked together with the energy. We worked with the balancing of earth and universe. But then when the continent split, everything was killed, everything was imbalanced, everything was moved, everything was lost, to where it comes to the things that are happening now. The imbalances of everything, of the male and the female energies. The imbalancing of one wanting to take control of the other. When in eons ago there was no such thing. There was the balance of everything. Where the male and the energy worked together in balance. Where the medicines were everywhere that you could pick. Now, I can't even go and hunt for herbs. Why? Because fences are up. No trespassing. And one time I did trespass. They called me and put me in jail. Oh, I didn't like being in jail. That's the first and last time I was in jail. So even now, you can't even go and pick herbs. Instead, you have to go buy it from an herbal store or from a co-op or from, Sprouts, Wild Oats, or whatever, But there are areas like in Mexico, in South America, places in Canada, that the herbs, the medicines are still wild. In Rio Rancho, New Mexico, which is the northern part of Albuquerque, about 20 miles, we have a school there where we teach herbology. where we teach the culinary arts and learning to utilize the herbs and the food that you grow. And also teaching anyone who wants to learn about the herbs, about the flowers, about the trees, about how to make medicines with the things that you grow. There's a group that's called the Native Health Initiative, which are Native students that go into learning about Western medicine. A lot of times they consider me their elder, so anytime they have functions or they're doing something at UNM with the medical students, they always call me to come and work with the medical students. Because it's important to understand and to learn. At one time, things weren't separated. Math and science wasn't separated. The medicines were separated. There was no such thing as Western medicine, as alternative medicine. There is no alternative medicine. It's all natural medicine. A lot of the drugs that are being made are made from the plants, from medicinal plants. And one of the things I work with the students is to understand that it's important at this time, yes, to learn all that you can in the universities, in the schools, but also to combine the two and to learn truth. Not a lot of the lies that are being garbaged out. But yeah, listen to whatever you need to listen, but then to understand what is and what isn't. And determine for yourselves and to work with it. And if they're going to medical school, also learn about the natural medicines. It is very important. At one time, were wanting to outlaw a lot of the traditional healers, a lot of the traditional medicine people, from healing people that would come to them. It was the medical profession that came to our aid and said, no, you can't do that. They were expecting us to go to college, go to the university, and get the paper. How can you give a diploma, give any kind of certification for something you learned since you were a child? The universities can't even touch on that. They wouldn't know how to teach that. So the medical profession came to our aid and said, this is not right. Because a lot of places, I work together with MDs, with doctors. I work together with RNs, with PAs. I know a lot of nurses and a lot of PAs that know natural medicine and Western medicine, and they do both. And they're allowed to. Why? Because they have that paper. But for people like myself, we can work with anyone that is licensed. Any clinic can call us in, and we can work with them, and we can work with people. There are two people I work a lot with that opened up Red Roots. It's also a herbal pharmacy. They are not only traditional people and learned since they were very young, and also ceremonial people, but they went to get their degrees as doctors of Oriental medicine. And a lot of times, specialized situations, they'll call me in. Or if groups, a lot of times we have groups that come from around the world, and they want to see someone like myself, so then they call me in. At this point, I'm at the age to where I do a lot of traveling, because there's a lot of communities that call me forth to deal with domestic violence and the issues that come up with that. With communities that have been torn apart and that are looking to release a lot of the trauma of the past in order to move forward in a good way and in a healthy way. I also have communities that call me that sometimes they've been exposed to poisons or other things, and doctors can't do anything for them. So they call people like me to come forth and to travel there and to help in the healing of the people. So this is a lot of work that I do. So it's just not in the United States or in Mexico. Also, I get called to other countries to do that. And so a lot of the women that are part of the Council of Directors for Child and World Nations, which is a project that was created by the grandmothers, by my grandmother and other elders from other tribes and other races of people, because a lot of the women were being exposed to all kinds of stuff, and they and the children were thrown into the cities, but yet weren't helped with employment, with housing, with these type of things. So the elders created Child of All Nations, women helping women to be able to find some way of surviving. And so it's a project that's been passed down from generation to generation. So after I had my son in 1982, they came to me, and because I was very sick also, I was dying in fact, and they told me, we'll give you a choice. You can go now and you know what will happen to your children if you leave Earth. Or we can heal you, and then when we come back for you, you cannot question because you've already made your choice. And so I chose to stay, and I chose to do as they asked. So after my son was a certain age, they came back for me and they said, you need to be trained to take this project over and to become the founder of your generation. And so it's a project that's been passed down from generation to generation. And in 1982 was after my son was born, is when they started training me. So I've been doing Child of All Nations ever since then. We do not solicit for political funds. So we create enterprises and we help people to create their own enterprises in order to survive, in order to make a living. Because a lot of times you can't depend on jobs, or you work in fast food and you're not making any money, you're hardly making it. So these are some of the things that we're doing in New Mexico. The enterprise, we have a community in Tucumcari, New Mexico. And Kmart was the last big corporation that was hiring people in that community. They closed and they moved. So that whole community in Tucumcari were without jobs. We're having to go on welfare. And they were looking for a way, so they came up to Albuquerque and they sought us out. And we started talking about creating the enterprise for the whole community. And so now the community have a building and they have land where they're creating resources for themselves. And then getting it in the international web to invite people to come during the spring and summer and to see and to enjoy what is there. So this is part also of what Child of All Nations is doing. And so the work is very much. But one of the things I'm here, I'm glad that I was invited here by Ernest, and he got to see a little bit about what's going on in Child of All Nations. So, Roy Williams was a person I was working with here, and his loss was a big loss to me because we were progressing very much here in Dallas. So, but anyway, thank you.
Thank you for sharing the rough beginning you had and the trail you've been on. You've been able to become one who's able to help others now. You flipped that script. But thank you. I have 3 personal goals for this evening. I think she spoke to all 3 goals. I need to go home now. And I appreciate everything she said, but we want to go a little bit further. One of the goals was to create a better awareness about the various traditions and practices of culturally rooted healing. I also want to explore and recognize the threats and opportunities to foster healing around the country. And also we want to engage the community more in the process for attaining and community health and well-being. So with those 3 goals in mind, I hope we can generate even more discussion. I wanted to go to Martha just a minute and ask her more about the art she's involved in now, the work she does, and also about what you learned from your grandparents, your grandmothers, as far as the healing process and how you've been able to channel your energy to being art is a healing process itself. Is that correct to say?
Yeah. Yeah, so art, I draw and paint, and I brought some paintings I guess I should show you. So I want to show you my grandmother, which is the one that I'm talking about. This is a charcoal drawing. And the way I use art is I use art not to be hanging galleries or anything. It's more about creating dialogue. So I guess if I'm going to talk about my grandmother, here's a charcoal drawing that I made of her, and the fact that it's charcoal, I can hold it, don't worry. The fact that it's charcoal is, it has an intention, which is what charcoal is made of the past. You know, it once was wood that was burned. And anyway, so that's the meaning. But yes, she's my grandmother and she's holding my son when he was a baby. And so art has become a healing medium for me because, well, in 2016, I just ran out of words with the current administration. Not that I want to get political, but I just couldn't articulate anymore anything. So I wrote journals, but I found that art was a way to heal my soul because I was very sad by all the things that was going on, the travel ban at the time, and at the time I wasn't a citizen. My status was really, you know, I just had I went through a very hard time in 2016, and so yes, that's how I use art. And then just to illustrate, so I made this other drawing because I always remember my grandmother as she always had an altar because even though she healed with herbs and with rituals, there was a lot of stigma around in Mexico, I guess with my family, that's not what you should do in Catholicism, and you should consult the priest first, not the curandera. So all these practices were always done in my family, but they were hidden. So anyways, I always remember that the emphasis was always religion and praying, and anything that my grandmother did always involved a blessing, and everything was done under this context of religion. So this is how I remember. And then the last drawing that I made for you to see today is what I remember the most. Anything that I had, a headache or my stomach hurt, she would do a cleanse of my energy with an egg. And she had this mix of delicious aromatic, I don't know what it was, but it was not really good. And she will pour these things to the egg, and then she will rub the egg around my whole body, my head. She started with the head, the forehead, then the arms, and all my body. And she would do all these crosses, and she was mumbling something, always something that I can't remember because it was very fast. It was like if she was praying, but it wasn't necessarily a prayer. And that always cured me. Like, I would take aspirin or I would take some medicine and I would still have these headaches. But whenever she would do this ritual in my body, I remember feeling relief. And it was the most delicious thing my body has ever experienced. So every time I will go to visit her, I will ask her, like, abuelita, límpiame con el huevo. So do me this cleanse. And it was just amazing to see that. So the way I use art, I'm currently studying at UAT, pursuing my second bachelor's degree in painting and drawing, and I like to draw these portraits of my past, I guess. I use also oil painting, and I often incorporate healing plants like aloe vera or basil, runa, I don't know what runa is in English, rosemary, and the things that I remember, because now that I'm here, I'm trying to connect a little bit of my past with my present, because here what I've been experiencing is that here I don't have my grandmother and I don't have my mom. So it came to the point that I had to do this myself, and I had to remember how it was done, and it involved a lot of love, a lot of meditation from my part, and focusing on trying to remember every single step that my grandmother used to do. And now I do this to my kids, and it's just a beautiful process of how important it is that we listen to our elders and preserve these traditions. And I'm sure they vary from place to place, from country to country, but we all have some cultural some cultural traditions that we can use. I mean, not always comes from Latin America, it comes from all over the world. There's Reiki, there's all these yoga, I mean, all these different things that we can do to align our energy and to make sure we feel love, because I feel that's the most important thing. In order to love others, we first need to love ourselves and make sure we are okay. So then we can be okay with the others. So but we always focus on the others, and we forget about our energy and coming back to ourselves. So yeah, that's.
Thank you. I have a couple more questions, and we're going to open up to you all to jump in and share your questions or comments. I want to ask Joseph a couple of questions. One is that you related to me that you are now affiliated with an organization called Child of All Nations. It was once called Children of All Nations. I'd like you to explain why that change took place. Also, and coupled with that question is looking at the challenges of today's world, with this concentration on materialism, 24-hour news cycles, and just the stress that relies on technology. How can we translate this to the traditional healing methods to our young people to make sure they sustain and carry on? Is there any hope for us to get it going in the next century?
For the first question, one of the elders, the last of the elders, International Elders Council, before she passed, I was with her, and she looked at me and she said, you know what? She said, yes, we need to take care of the children. She said, but what about the child within everyone in us that hasn't healed? So she's the one that suggested that we drop children and just put child of all nations to cover all races of people, all ages of people, because the child in here, these times are not healed yet. That's why we have a lot of mental illness. This is why we have a lot of crippling of the body. This is why we have a lot of emotional trauma. It's because that child hasn't healed yet. So we not only cover children of all ages and youth, we also cover all races, all ages of people. Mind you, the old ones would always say, you are not a true adult till after you're 51 years old. So from the time you're in the womb till the time you're 51, you have all that time to grow, to learn, to make mistakes, cry about it, then let it go, and go on. You've learned from it. And once you're 51 years old, a whole world starts to open up, and a great understanding. And trust that a lot of the healing process is also taking place. And as far as the other, computers and fancy phones, they don't like me. They blow up in my hands. A lot of times they'll jump out of my hand. So I only have a simple flip phone that doesn't do anything. You can ask me. You tried to get an amp from me going. There's no way you can do it on that phone. And it's too expensive. And before, I was working on computers. I used to be in the music business, so I used to work with all the equipment, and then all of a sudden, things didn't like my touch. The more that I was pulled into the world of healing was more that the energy was so intense, because I also work with energy on different levels. And so the sensitivity of the internet, of working with computers, working with sensitive instruments, it doesn't work for me anymore. And so I don't use it. Everything for me has to be hard copy. Or I have to have someone to get on the computer to do work for me. And so there are a lot of the council members, they'll do the work for me, and they'll say, stay away from my computer, stay away from my cell phone, because I've already blown up some of their cell phones. They get upset with me, and it's too expensive to keep blowing up computers. So I stay away from those things because they don't like my touch.
I'm wondering if there are any best practices we can count to Martha or Yosa in terms of the interweaving of the arts community with the healing community, or with traditional medicine, with modern medicine. Are there examples where these worlds come together? If you can point to?
Oh, they've been together.
Oh, okay.
in therapy to deal with not only the children, but also the adults. And we use it a lot with the homeless. And so in Albuquerque, I work with a lot of theater groups, and then also with Off Center and other centers, Art Street for the homeless. Yeah, and then we used to have our studio, we had 4 studios where homeless artists would come in and all the materials would be there, and then a lot of the kids that were in the shelters, their counselors would be them. But at this time, we don't have we had a little bit of break-ins, and a lot of the things were destroyed, so, so we don't have that at this time. It's kind of small.
For me, one of the examples of how to use art as a healing method, at UNT last October, I think, with the Atacama Journey team, the theme was very political and close to my heart and to a lot of the Latino community on campus. So what I did is I brought some of my other paintings, were very colorful, and what I did was I led a healing circle where about 35 people, we just did a circle of trust, and the paintings, the purpose of the paintings was to serve as a reminder or as a door if someone maybe could see themselves in the painting, maybe they experienced the same thing that I tried to portray in the painting. So just being able to know that you are in a safe place, in a circle, in a community, because these are understandings that you make sure before you start the circle. You make sure that this is a safe place, what stays here, what is being said here stays here. The outcome was really beautiful because we were all tuned into the same energy. We all spoke about what was in our hearts, what was aching, what moved us from the play that we saw. So it was a very powerful, energy-wise moment. There were some people that cried, some people that shared a lot, some people that were just there because they were not Latinos, but they were very, they wanted to make sure that they support us bodily. Some people that didn't speak Spanish because it was open to whatever language we wanted to use. So I find that those intersections of theater, art, healing, it's powerful in a community. Just know that you're not alone, to know that we all support each other, and just get it out of your chest in a safe place to be very, very healing. And depending on the topic, obviously, right, of whatever you're talking in a healing circle, but I feel like just knowing that you're not alone, that sometimes we think like, oh, this is just happening to me. No, it's happening to more people than you think that so that's how I use it. This is an example of healing art in the community.
I guess I'm a kind of anxious person and want to see big changes happen soon, have an impact. So I'm going to try to restrain myself a little bit, but basically, how can we get to the point, what kind of models exist so that we're dealing with young people, children who are facing horrendous horrors and traumas from gun shootings and drug overdose and things like that, and how can we begin to create this beloved community more beyond just individual. I know in the school system they have programs like restorative justice, things like that that happen. So maybe those kind of things are heading in the right direction. What do you say?
Well, in Albuquerque, there's a lot of groups that are working with kids with trauma. On the reservations and on the pueblos, art is used a lot because especially with a lot of historical trauma, it's a matter of going back and recognizing what happened to the peoples and letting it go, letting it heal from the body. And for children shut down when they see something horrific and they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to look at it. But then when you give them play, when you give them paper mache, when you give them pastels or colors or color pencils and give them something to put what they feel, the emotion they feel on paper, then you see that child starting to talk, starting to become himself or herself again. because experiencing trauma as a young child is a horrible thing for a child to go through and makes that child grow up fast. But if that child has some kind of outlet, or to even just play at something and just scream, and allowing that child to get that play and to throw that play, or to mold it in the shape that it wants, and then to scream at it, and to yell at it, to hit it, in order to bring that anger out. Because a child that presses on that anger, on that trauma, when it grows angry. That's why there's a lot of children that bully. That's why there's a lot of people that are also teenagers that are doing other teenagers. Because they don't know, they've never been allowed to express that creative side of them to help them through that trauma. And that's good that a lot of the artists and a lot of the musicians and people in the entertainment business that are starting to provide monies for the arts, dance, music, any kind of art work. And so we need more of that. And places like this that open more to children, especially children, homeless children, children that are going through horrific things, to allow those children to have some place of expression without judgment.
I don't have enough cord to get out here, we're going to open it up. We have about 30 minutes over here. And I think we have about 20, 30 minutes. We can find out what you have in mind, what you want to share, what you want to ask. So we got University of Texas in Dallas.
You haven't discussed this at all, but it's on my mind. You spoke of your grandmother, and you spoke of the mothers and your grandmothers that went before, and their spirits are still here. Can you tell us a little bit from your wisdom and your community, how do you think about death? Does a veil lift and you go somewhere else? Where does their spirit go when your body is no longer here?
Death is another life form. It's part of that circle. Okay? Just because you share the body doesn't mean that you don't exist. Because we're all spirit form. We're all light. And there are many realms and there are many places for the spirit to go to. It depends on the type of character that you are. If you're a violent person or if you're a good person, it depends a lot on that. And a lot of people may disagree, because a lot of religions teach about heaven and hell. For us, it never existed. It was another world. What is that? So a lot of the English language, when you're talking about languages, it doesn't exist because our language was simple. Our language was what identified any of our relations, earth and universe. And it was all connected. There was no separatism like there is now when society was starting to be built. Everything is separated. No, everything was part of that circle. And so there are many answers to that. There's many ways to that. It depends on how you were raised and what you believe in and what it feels in here. As far as other worlds, I've been dead once or twice, so I have felt many things. And I also see many things that other people can't see. And it's difficult to explain. And it's just like when the woman that raised me, when she passed, I saw who took her and I saw where she went. So it all depends on the intuitiveness of each person, because each person comes from a different culture and tradition. But for us, death is a part of life, and there's nothing to fear as part of that, because it doesn't end there.
Yes, and is there a meeting?
Yes, there is, but it's a spiritual meeting, so it's normally not.
It's not public, I understand, thank you for sharing that though. Another question is, you mentioned you work in New Mexico and Albuquerque, and often what we read from there is mostly about Navajo literature and tradition. So if you could speak a little bit to maybe similarities you see with this idea of Hosho and Navajo culture, this harmony, or if you have another word for that.
Well, one of the council members, Patricia Davis, she's a medicine woman from there.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, so that's something a lot that she sometimes travels with me, and she teaches a lot about culture. And so it's the normal way of seeing the balance in everything. And like in this society, it's built on win-lose. With culture, it's win-win.
Right.
It's always putting the balance of everything, where everybody is in balance with everything, and there is no suffering of win and lose, because when you're looking at win and lose, that's where the suffering comes in. That's why there's so much homelessness. That's why there's so much hunger. It's because of that imbalance. And so when people can start seeing things of how to restructure or how to start a new life, look into the win-win instead of win-lose. You know, how each one can live in peace, can live in balance, can no longer be hungry, and understand that material things come and go. But when you look at life, that is the essence in life, is the life of a person, and not how much money you make. In the old days, it was how many children you had. That's what made you wealthy. But now, look at the imbalance of everything. And so, and then yes, a lot of the people on the reservations, there's the poverty is a lot. There's also infiltration of drugs, alcohol, all these things. But it's to keep the people young. And it's just now, not on the reservation, it's everywhere. But that's to keep the people numb. And when the people can come out of that numbness and start understanding that there is a way of living with the win-win instead of win-lose. That's what these enterprises are about, is living in culture.
Thank you so much for sharing. And one last question, Martha, if you could share your grandmother's name.
Angelita.
Thank you. Thank you.
First and foremost, thank y'all for being here. It's a blessing to have you. Nowadays, when we talk about the onset of technology and the speed of technology and all that, it comes with a lot of fear attached to it. Everybody's kind of living in this fear that things can be taken away from them, they get in trouble for something, they have to stay within these times, right? So, watching y'all, I just want to know what provides y'all with the biggest set of faith and confidence for y'all to continue. Oh, okay. All right, good. So, what provides you with the biggest set of not only faith but confidence to continue the traditions that y'all know of and expand on the traditions that y'all know of, and to keep practicing in light of the darkness that exists? Like, where do you get your confidence and your faith to keep moving?
When you see the goodness of everything, I have a loud voice. When you see the goodness in everything, especially yourself, when you can start having confidence in yourself and understanding that you are a good person and that you have a good heart, then things for you will start to change. But if you're constantly watching the news and seeing the ugliness, because that's all they show is the ugliness, and they don't show the beauty of everything. When you can start seeing, opening not only these eyes, but your inner eye, to see the beauty within everybody, not just in you or your community, then you can start feeling the difference. When you can go out into, a lot of times when people come to me, because I'm teaching a lot of young people, that come to me for different things, first thing I do is take them out into the woods, to a park, anywhere where they can attach themselves to the tree, where they can see the plant. Because mind you, everything in life is sound, is light, is vibration, is color, is energy, including in here. When we can sit still long enough to hear that vibration within us and become comfortable with that, and then feel a tree, feel the plant, you feel the life, then that in itself gives you an understanding, there's other life forms instead of just me. Whereas a lot of times the society says, well, man is more than plants than animals, let's kill them all. Well, then, if you kill them all, then there's going to be a problem because you're going to have a hard time existing. We're connected to everything. And when you can see, feel, and hear the whole of everything, then you can start seeing the blossoming of beauty and not just, the violence, not just the hate. And as a lot of the old ones always remind me sometimes when I feel like I'm getting off track, is that a lot of times people are being weeded out or they're being harvested out. And you notice that this year, the volcanoes, the earthquakes, the mudslides, what the harsh weather is doing, and the hurricanes. The earth, I tell people, the earth has AIDS. She has to cleanse herself through the fires, through the waters, shaking it off. All these things, the volcanoes she's throwing up. She has to be able to heal herself so this earth doesn't blow up. Okay? She has sickness like we do. When we start healing ourselves, that part of where you're at is going to start to heal also. And a lot of times people that are in the way, because we get warnings, get out of the way or you're going to be caught in it. People forget to listen. They're right there. No, I can't move. I've got to hang on to all my material things. Oh no, my house, this and that. And they won't move. And what happens? They're harvested. So when you can start listening and hearing, the birds have a purpose in this life. They're the ones that pick the energy up, the distorted energy, and move the energy. Because when you're looking at birds, watch their dance. Watch how they're dancing. The geese, when they go up, watch what they're doing. And eventually you can see the patterns that they're living and that they're doing. They're putting the energy ley lines back. If you could only see the ley lines of the earth and the ones that are cut, severed, fractured, and then the birds catch them and start putting them back together and weaving them back. So it's important to, yes, you're in the city, but once in a while get away from the city so you can see the birds, so you can see the animals, so you can lean up against a tree, so you can see the wave of the plants through the gentle wind. Then things will start giving you an understanding because then you'll start to be able to feel. And then you can start seeing when you come back in the city, yeah, the ugliness is there, but they're being weeded out. But you also, beyond that, can see the beauty of everything else.
I just want to say one thing too about confidence that you mentioned, because I was talking about this yesterday with my husband. A lot of the stress in today's life comes also from, we try so hard to be someone, because sense of belonging is something important for the human being. We need to belong to somewhere, to an institution, to a group, wherever. The sense of belonging is very important. And we spend our lives trying to be someone. And we forget that we are someone already. We are. Your job doesn't make you who you are. And I mean, and I'm a mother, like my kids, they're part of my life, but I am someone before I am a mother, before I'm a wife, before I'm all these hats that I wear in life. I am me, So having that present in our lives is so important to just remind ourselves. And one of the things I do, I like to write these little notes for myself, and so that I can remember this when I'm too busy with life trying to be someone. And then I have to stop myself and say, Martha, you are someone. You are someone. What are you talking about? And when I remember that, I feel so happy. I feel so complete. I don't need to prove myself or the world anything, because I have the joy of I am someone full of air, full of life. And when we're talking, then it happens. You start feeling life, So that's something. It's a healing thought, I guess, that we can all. I invite everybody to have this present in your lives, that you are who you are before you put all these labels. I mean, and I know some of us are very attached to, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, or my job, but even before that, we are human beings, and we are who we are, and hopefully full of love and air and light.
I'm moved to testify about something about Joseph. When we were coming into the airport at Love Field, walking into the garage, inside the garage, a robin flew in and sat on the car and watched her pass by. She said, see, I made it. She told the robin, I made it, say, check on it. That was beautiful. But this whole thing that I'm hearing about belonging and identity, I think are crucial pieces of. I think I heard Joseph say that we're not our body and we're not our mind, we're spirit. And I know also in the Native American culture and in African culture as well, that there is an animal spirit that is selected or chosen. I'm not sure that it works. But you told me, for example, your animal spirit is a white buffalo and a wolf. And Brother David told me my animal spirit is a vulture. So he's probably a good way. So I'm just wondering, what is this inner spirit? In the play of Blessed Ultima, there's an owl spirit, right? And so I'm not sure, how does that fit into the cosmology of what we're talking about today?
That's what I was talking about earlier, the connection of all life forms. We're connected to the four-legged people, because we ourselves are two-legged animals. So we're connected to all of the animal world. And used to, when we were little, they would send us out into the woods to watch the deer, to watch the different characters of the animals, and how it coincided to the character of humans. And when you eliminate some of the four-legged people, when you eliminate a people like that, you start to notice that in those areas especially, a disease comes in. And a lot of times, overrun rodents or insects. Because a lot of times, the animals, their character may be some form of our own character, but also they help take care of us in one form or another. It is said that when the continent split, all our food sources was gone, that the humankind were starving. And so the animals, the two-leggeds and the winged ones, they were seeing the humankind die. And one of the questions they asked to the higher source above is, what can we do so that they can survive? Because then we will die. The circle of life will completely die, and the earth will be barren. And so the higher source, the creator, instructed the animals to go to the humankind, because remember in those days we even knew the language of the animals. Went to the humankind to say, I will sacrifice myself so that you may eat. But this is what you have to do. And the humankind that still knew the language of the animal, that he got instruction as to doing the ceremony of thanks and asking for forgiveness, and thanks for sacrificing so that the humankind would eat. And that was the beginning of people eating the four-legged people, because they are people. And so it was that pact the humankind with the animal kind and the bird kind, and the people that swim, so that the humans could eat, so that the humans could survive. But there was a pact. There was a human who had to sacrifice also, and it was the female who was chosen to do that. Because eons ago, women didn't suffer in their moon time, which is the menstruation time, or birthing babies. Babies just came without pain. The pain that women suffer now, since the day they're born, is part of the sacrifice for eating the flesh of the other form of people.
We have time for one, two more questions. If not, I'm going to ask for some closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay, so I came here with a question and I feel like it's been answered. So my question was, are there any rituals that you suggest that we do on a day-to-day basis? I understood that you guys said self-love, share love, spread the love, gratitude, being in tune with Mother Earth, journaling. Is there anything else that you would suggest that we do as a daily ritual to help each other heal, to promote self-healing?
I am thankful for who I am and why I am. I am thankful for the purpose here. I am thankful, I am thankful, I am thankful. That's all that they want. That is the only thing in whatever language your language is. Thanks.
I would say adding forgiveness. So many times we carry, part of the trauma or the sadness or whatever we're dealing comes from not being able to forgive. So forgive ourselves, forgive the neighbor, forgive everybody, letting go anything that we might be attached to. And a ritual that I can suggest, I do it every night, is I go over my day slowly in my mind. I just dedicate, I close my eyes, whatever it takes, 1 minute, 2 minutes, and I just go over everything that I did that day, giving thanks. And so that I don't forget, but I kind of give back the energy. I don't want to take that energy with me to go to sleep. I was happy at the park with my kids. I'll leave that energy there. And so that I'm not leaving my energy all over the place and then I feel empty. So at the end of the day, I kind of call what's mine, my energy back to my body, and I leave the energy that I might have taken from the spaces that I've been during the day, whether it's a grocery store or the school, whatever. So I just like to mentally leave everything in place, and I go to sleep in a better way, I guess.
I'll let my 2 cents work.
Yes.
I'm the 3rd generation of my family born free. And so my grandfather was the 1st generation. If we go back all the way after, I'm the 13th generation probably born free. But for me, remembering and honoring our ancestors, having a special place in my home, our altar. I have 3 generations on one side, my mother's side of the family, my father's side of the family. Now, every morning before I walk out, I have to look them in the eye, and it's made a difference in my life. As far as feeling protected, feeling at ease, and everything's gonna be all right. They came through some horrible things, and we're still going through some horrible things, but they not only endured, they survived, and they thrived and brought life beyond themselves to the day. So being able to remember and to reflect and show gratitude and appreciation, not just for your family, but in breathing yourself is important. And that's, I also heard Joseph say about listening. Just meditating and listening is an important part of a practice, I think. Thank you.
For sure.
I just have one more question, and I get kind of shy on my. So, anyway, my great-grandmother was a midwife, and I was kind of a healer because there weren't very many doctors in some county, far South Texas, and so my grandmother also made a lot of herbs and liniments and all that, and she rubbed all over us, and we loved it. But my great-grandmother lived during a time of a pretty important curandero down in South Texas. She used to drag us down there all the time to a shrine and such. And so my question is for y'all, are curanderos and curanderos born or made? Do you feel like you were taught through your grandmothers or you were born to that profession?
I was born into it.
I think you also, I was never told that, hey, you're gonna be active, but you have that sensibility, I guess, of naturally, you're just very sensible to other people's energy. It's something maybe, like, you know that you are. I feel like whoever has the gift of healing, you know. So, that was my answer.
Well, thank you so much for the interaction, the patience. One more thing, one side.
Okay, I'd like for everyone to sit with your feet down, like this, your hands like this. And I want you to breathe in through your nose, exhale. I want you to do it deep and slow. And I want you to close your eyes and forget everything of the day. Whatever you went through today, let it go. And I want you to listen to the sound and see where it takes you. Hey, 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 oh. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, That is energy. That is vibration. That is sound. And if you were in a place where there was color, there is color. That is energy. That is what we are made of. That is who we are. And once you can sit still long enough and allow some kind of sound to take you into a smooth place, into a place where you can transition into peace, then you will be able to flow through this life. And you'll be able to open not only these eyes, but your inner eye, to see what is true and to see what is not, to see what is good for you or what is not. So that way the choices that you make and the transitions you make will go through this life a lot easier. And you have a great understanding of who you are and why you are. So,
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.